Welcome back, and many thanks for staying with us. You're still watching Newdawn on Ogun State Television, OGTV. It's time for discussion segments of the program. Well, it's no longer news that President Muhammadu Buhari has appointed new service chiefs, and they are Major General Lucky Rabo as Chief of Defense Staff, Major General Ibrahim Atairu as Chief of Army Staff, Rear Admiral Awal Gambo as Chief of Naval Staff, and Air Vice Marshal Isiaka Amau as Chief of Air Staff. And since that appointment on Tuesday, you would agree with us or with me that Cheers, Jess, and Hope have continued to trail this appointment. Yes, but the general hope would be for them to hit the ground running and nip insecurity in the bud. So this morning, this will form the crux of our discussion as we'll be reflecting on the activities of the retired service chiefs, and that would dovetail into expectations from the new service chiefs. And to discuss that with us this morning, we have two gentlemen in the studio, Dr. Kunle Olawumi, a retired commodore and head of Department of Criminology and Security Studies at Christland University. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
And also we have a public analyst in the studio, Mr. Olanima Shao. You're welcome.
It's good to be here again.
Good morning once again. So I'm going to start with you, Dr. Kunle Olawumi. Looking at the fact that, yes, we do have new service chiefs, but I want to look at the former service chiefs. From your own perspective, I mean, we have seen the fact that some parties have called for, a look into the affairs, how the former service chiefs actually conducted their own security, their own security work in the country. So from your own perspective, how would you grade the former security chiefs?
Thank you very much. I think we always get something a little bit wrong about the concept of the Trinity itself. When you look at the concept of Trinity, you see that the military men are just at the bottom. They're at the bottom of the triangle. If you read Clausewitz, it will tell you that a society is actually made up of three things. You have the people, you have the government, and you have the military. You cannot actually assess the past service chiefs on their own merit, because you have to look at it from three segments. The first segment is the policy strategic segment. The second segment you want to think about is the operational aspect, and the last one is the tactical aspect. So from the policy strategic angle, whatever the military does at the operational level is governed by the executive branch of the government, and they cannot actually do anything without the direction. If you also go to the concept of the intelligence circle itself, where everything starts from, you look at that, the first thing you're going to observe in the intelligence circle is the commander's intelligence requirement. In other words, the commander-in-chief of the armed forces is going to give the direction as to where the armed forces is supposed to go. It is from there they take their strength and energy. It's from there the service chiefs are going to derive their collection efforts, the processing effort, the analysis of events, and they disseminate back to the commander-in-chief. So I listen to people and they try to blame the service chiefs. The service chiefs, under the concept of civil-military relations, are to answer to the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. And whatever you see them doing, you cannot be greater spiritually than your spiritual head in a church. So I'm not here to actually castigate the past service chiefs or to assess them. I will look at it from the 30,000 level and tell you that they can only do as much as the commander-in-chief of the armed forces delegates them to do.
Okay. Sorry, Mr. Ola, please. He's saying that we shouldn't necessarily grade them by their own work right now, but Nigerians expect to see, results. Are we saying that the commander-in-chief is the one that have not allowed them to be able to work optimally?
Thank you very much. I like the tripod stand which our ex-serviceman here put the analysis, particularly the policy aspect. But Nigerians are more expectant. It is assumed that any government that is in place will make sure that the security of lives and property is primus. It's a universal concept in their agenda. So whichever policy they want to put in place, given the challenges on our hands, it is assumed automatically that that policy must be favorable ultimately to the citizen by making sure they degrade and decimate to the last level the enemies. Now, talking about the operational, tactical aspect of it, maybe that is the area that the Nigerians are more interested in. In your operations, what have you done to bring down the marauders, the threats of the banditos? We want results. How you go about it is not the interest of Nigerians, to be sincere with us, because they've chosen a government to be in power. And that government, with the head of the government, he is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the Federation. And he has service chiefs. And there are war commanders. Instructions percolate down up to the field. And the boys carries out the assignment in the interest of the country. We have to salute the gallant soldiers on the field. And at most, we can't afford to just sacrifice them for nothing's sake. Because for somebody to take up the assignment of being a soldier, to defend the territorial integrity of this nation, you've got to salute his courage. And if he's doing that out of patriotism, he's also doing it out of a way of livelihood. And whatever it is that you have to do it well. However, if the instructions, whichever the policy system is, comes from the service chiefs to the commanders, down to the boys on the field, it has to be something that guarantees security, safety. But where there are challenges, of course, it's allowed. Those who are operatives should be able to come out and tell us we have these challenges. And they must be able to face up through follow-up amendments on how we can recoup. But, like I started with, Nigerians, and I happen to be one of them, I am not much more interested in stories from those who are doing the job, particularly from the executive. I want results. We want results because we can feel it on day-to-day basis how the security challenges is eating up into the whole of our fabrics, and we want those who are doing it on our behalf, thankfully today, to continue doing something on time so that we can get a tangible evidences that they are working. So that it won't just be stories. I can understand the aspect of policy, tactical, operational, but the operation, Nigerians want to see results.
Okay, well, Dr. Olawumi, before we talk about expectations from the new service chiefs, let's keep reflecting. But in terms of operation, because I could recall last year when the Chadian troops, destroyed 5 bases of Boko Haram in Niger and Nigeria, and the former service chief, Burutai, the former Army chief, said that he wouldn't leave the northeast until Boko Haram was degraded. But that didn't happen. So in terms of operation, how will you assess?
Actually, when you come down to the operational level, you cannot talk about operations in isolation. I know on air, the time is always a problem. I could have told you, I've worked with 3 head of states and 2 to 3 presidents. I've spent about 35 years in the military intelligence, and 30 of this was in combat intelligence. In other words, I have done a lot of operations that has to do with the national security. I will just bring just 2. One was during Chief Obasanjo, that's the former president Obasanjo. We had issues with Bakassi. My desk was Bakassi. I was in Defense Intelligence Agency. And we went to court. And President Obasanjo was very proactive. He told the military that, come, let us have the second option in case we lose the war. I mean, we lose the court case. And we started working. I led that effort, and we came up with an operational plan for Bakassi. The second one was during Yaradua, when the Niger Delta militancy issue was, dissipating the military. Yaradua came up and said, okay, this is an intelligence-driven operations. He called the National Security Advisor, he called the National Intelligence Agency Directorate, he called the Defense Intelligence Agency where I worked, and he called the Department of State Services that they should lock themselves up in a room. And I can mention the Chief of Defense Intelligence then was General M. Said. His option, which I wrote, which I designed, became the option for the country. And I led that effort. You can just blame Buratai. The effort in the Northeast is not kinetic effort. This is asymmetry. And Yaradua immediately identified that this is an intelligence-driven effort because Trompulu was killing our men in the creeks, and Boilov, Sagbama George, Asarido Kubo, I've had contact with all of them. And we discovered that the center of gravity of the effort in Niger Delta was a gentleman called, do I need to mention it online?
Not mention that.
Okay. And once we identify the center of gravity of a problem, then you put all the national effort and resources to attack that particular center of gravity. And in this case, Yaradua was able to stop the issue of Niger Delta issue within 6 months. I went to Angola and brought some of the actors. And the situation here, I have told General Onushakin, I used to attend the security and intelligence brief. I told him this is an intelligence-led operation and it should be led by the Air Force. And I gave them all the things they need to do, but they couldn't do it. 3 years now, 4 years now, they couldn't do it. The Buhari government has been doing this for 5 years, and there's no result. We cannot continue to do the same. If there's time, I will tell you what they're supposed to do if they want to stop the issue of Boko Haram. But it's actually a policy issue. It's not Buhari issue. The policy direction will tell you. When I worked for Abacha directly, we had an issue, and he said, if there's a dissident of issue in Nigeria, or anytime you see insurgency operation happening in Nigeria, whether Fulani herdsmen, whether Boko Haram, whatever you call it, once it's affecting the safety and welfare of the citizen, and it lasts more than a week, he told me, he said, they know that the government is involved. And I was wondering whether that is the case. We have no business having this issue in Nigeria. It can be done in 6 months. And I told General Shakin, who just left, that we can do this in 6 months. We stopped Niger Delta militancy issue under Yaradua in 6 months. And today we have amnesty program and everything is quiet. We've been pursuing this issue for more than 12 years. And if these guys come, I know them individually. I work with the Chief of Naval Staff in the Defense Intelligence Agency. He was there when I was pursuing Harry Oka. I have to mention his name now. We pursued him to Ghana, South Africa, and we got him in Angola. And that was the end of the issue. Because we identified that the center of gravity of Niger Delta militancy was Harry Oka. Now, what is the center of gravity of Boko Haram and Fulani herdsmen? The military have to sit down, put their heads together, and actually come up with just one center of gravity for the insurgency activities and put all their efforts together to win it. If they don't do that, we will continue to fight this issue for the next 100 years. It won't stop.
Well, Dr. Oladimashaun, from that perspective, the professional perspective, what does this say about fight against insurgency?
I'm really, really very, very happy this morning that we have somebody that is in the intelligence community, very well versed, well networked, well connected, has worked with various personalities in government. And from all indications, he knows his onions. And from those of us who are in the observatory, what we see is almost not different from what he has been postulating on. We could note that somehow, somewhere along the line, there are obvious vested interests in the ongoing war against the Boko Haram and other insurgencies. And the first thing that comes to my mind is, during the Nigerian Civil War, Pa Awolowo of blessed memory was the finance minister under the war. And he brought out a tactics, a strategy. He said, cut their supply links and let's see how they survive. I've been wondering since we've started this thing, why is it so difficult? Because that is the question we should be asking ourselves. Why is it so difficult to cut the supply links of the insurgents, the Boko Haram, to the extent that you can incapacitate them? And let's see what happens. Failure to do that presupposes that there are people with pecuniary interest. I may not totally disagree with him on this, the issue of policy, but I am more interested in how the operation goes. But he says we may not be able to blame the bureaucrats of this world because it's most likely that their hands are tied because of policy networks. Then who is behind the policy network that is making it difficult for us to get the arrowhead like they did in the South-South, to us make, even if there are so many arrowheads in this insurgency fight, at least if you are able to get one, in Yoruba parlance, please permit me, if you pull one, you may likely get to mate or to get the others. What is it in it for those who are sponsoring? Because that's the word we are supposed to use now. Some people are sponsoring this destabilization. What is it they want to get? Is it political? Is it financial gain? Is it power play? Is it just a game? Or is it something like we will make it uncomfortable for you to govern? And when the other person goes, the other one will say, we will also make it uncomfortable for you to govern. And at the end of the day, Nigerians are the ones to suffer for it. Something is going on somewhere at the top echelon that we are not privy to. But the people in the intelligence circuit knows, just as we are observing, that such a thing is playing out. How do we get to know who and who? Of course, it appears some people are the owners of Nigeria. Some of us are tenants in this equation. And I hope one of these days, the landlords of Nigeria will realize that if you destroy all the tenants, there won't be anybody again to rent your house.
We pray that won't happen. Dr. Kunle Olawumi, of course, the call for dismissal of the former service chiefs lingered, for so long. On Tuesday, that happened, and the president appointed new service chiefs. And like I said, while introducing this segment, that Cheers, Ages, and Hope have continued to thrill that appointment. Hope we're not rejoicing too early.
Thank you for that. I've listened to some commentators on this topic. What has just changed is the operational commanders. The policy remains. The strategy remains. If President Muhammadu Buhari wants Boko Haram or this insurgency to end in 6 months, it will end. I've worked with all these services he just appointed. The Chief of Naval Staff, Gambo, was just 1 year my junior. We worked together in Defense Intelligence Agency. I've worked with the Chief of Army Staff when I was the Deputy Director of Defense Administration and Defense Headquarters. They are fine officers. I know them. We've worked in the operational rooms, controlling the exercise, the intelligence effort, the operational effort. We've worked together. There's nothing wrong with them. They are beautiful hands. They are brilliant hands. They know exactly what to do. Gambo was with me in DIA when we were pursuing the Niger Delta effort. So they know what to do. But you see, military is a very special job. I use the word job because that's our language. We take orders. I mean, you have the Senate Committee on Defense. You have the legislative arms. You have the executive branch. We just take orders. When Yar'Adua said he wants this issue to end, it ended. When Babangida, I was in a meeting in the early 80s, when Babangida told the IG that, where is Anini? Anini was captured. We call it the Commander-in-Chief Intelligence Requirement. Once he gives the order, let me tell you, these boys that are there now, they will end Boko Haram in 6 months. But everything is politics. It is not operations. And I exactly know that when you look at this money now, the Corruption Perception Index, Nigeria is number 149. Ghana was 75. It was released this week.
Yeah.
Now, look at the Democracy Index for Nigeria. Look at the Human Development Index for Nigeria. These are the 30,000 feet level analysis of the problem of Nigeria. But if we can sort out the policy strategic level problem, I have no doubt about the ability of these boys. I know them. I've worked with them. They can stop Boko Haram. But if the government is not willing, I will tell you there are 3 concepts that governs national security, or insecurity as you may call it. One is bad governance. I call it BMW. The second one is mercantilism. People are making hell of money from all these things. People are making money. Traders are making money. So, bad governance, when you have poor leaders, people that have no business being in government and they're there, that's one of the recipe for insecurity. Mercantilism, as I've mentioned, which is business. People are making businessmen, including everybody, including Southwest, South, they are making money from Boko Haram.
Including the inhabitants.
Now, the third one, which is the most important one, is when you have a very weak civil society. Look at the population of Nigeria, 200 million plus. How many of us are actually indeed educated? So when you have a very weak civil society, it's a recipe for insecurity. We can talk about Burata of this world, of the military of this world. Look at the polity, and look at these 3 indices. When you have weak leaders who doesn't even know what is governance, and is the one giving the order, what do you expect?
Well, this crisis, the insurgency, started as far back as 2009. And this government, Buhari government, came into power, 2015. So I'm also saying that the preceding governments, for example, the Jonathan administration, didn't also have the political will. But maybe before you answer that question, let's quickly take this breather. When we come back, the discussion continues.
Nigerians, our fearless officers and men of the Nigerian military are winning the war against Boko Haram. Today, all occupied territories have been recovered and Boko Haram has been degraded. Our affected brothers and sisters are getting their lives back. However, they are now after you and me. In our mosques, churches, schools, motor parks, markets, entertainment centers, and public gatherings. Be vigilant. Be security conscious. Report suspicious persons, objects, and movements to the police and other security agencies. The security of our nation is a duty for you and me. Nigeria, unite against terrorism.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture. The Ogun State government has observed with concern various acts of misconduct by some individuals and groups which contravene extant laws of the state.
These acts include sale and use of alcohol and illicit drugs in motor parks, indiscriminate dumping of refuse, display of goods and placement of containers on drainages and along highways, indiscriminate noise pollution, refusal of commercial and agricultural ventures to pay levies into government coffers as stipulated by law, establishing schools, hospitals and pharmaceutical stores without registration, failure to participate in monthly sanitation exercises, engaging in various illegal activities in government-owned forest reserves, erecting structures in contravention of the state physical planning laws, touting which disrupts free traffic flow.
The list is endless. Right now, the Prince Dapo Abiodun-led administration is poised to put a permanent stop to all these unwholesome practices impacting negatively on socio-economic life in the state. Therefore, those involved in these activities are warned to desist forthwith or be prepared to face the full wrath of the law. Be warned. This message is from the Harmonized Task Force for the Control of Illegalities in Ogun State.
Yes, welcome back. The program is still Newdawn on Ogun State Television, OGTV, the People's Tele. And this morning, we're looking at expectations from the new service chiefs, the task ahead, and we have two gentlemen in the studio. Dr. Kunle Olawumi, retired commandor and head of Department of Criminology and Security Studies, Queensland University, and also a public analyst, Mr. Ola Animashao.
Yes, so before we go on the break, Dr. Kunle, we are asking, looking at the government, the Jonathan government, that came in before the Buhari administration, this issue of Boko Haram had started before them. But then I want to ask two questions right now. Are we saying that the government before the Buhari administration, the Jonathan administration, also did not have the political will to stop Boko Haram? And also, I want to look at the constitutionality of appointing these new service chiefs right now, because there have been issues that they were supposed to go through the two houses of the National Assembly. They were supposed to go through both houses, and there was an issue when Jonathan was trying to appoint some service chiefs during his own term, and there was issue that, okay, he had to go through the National Assembly. So I want you to answer both questions. Do you think there was no political will during the Jonathan administration, and right now appointing the service chiefs without them not going through both houses of National House of Assembly?
Yeah, thank you once again. I think I work with Jonathan administration very closely. I was the Deputy Director of Naval Intelligence when he was there. And I remember he also even helped me to go to Harvard University to go and study national and international security studies. So they have the political will. There's no doubt about that. But just like when you look at the international environment, when you look at the international security, you have the deep state. We all know that there are people that govern this world outside the United States, president or Russian president. We know. Look at the issue of COVID-19 and so on. There are the deep states in the international system. Okay? Are you telling me that in Nigeria there are no deep states? There are people that govern this country. I mean, if you say, I was there and I knew Jonathan wanted like hell that we should end this thing. And it wasn't working. Because there are people behind the scene that determine who should be the president of Nigeria. There are people behind the scene that determine who get promoted in the military. I told you I spent 35 years in the combat intelligence. I missed promotion 3 times to become a 2-star because some people felt that certain people should be promoted ahead of others. I'm a victim. I came first in promotion board 3 times, and 3 times I was denied promotion. That will lead me to the next question. The next question you are asking is about choosing the service chiefs. It is the prerogative of the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Nigeria. And those 3 guys you see in the Army, Navy, Air Force today, the only qualification is loyalty. And anybody can take me on it. I've been in the system. I know how it works. It's not whether you are brilliant. You know, even to get promoted to 2 stars is political. It's not anything brilliancy, intelligence ends at 1-star general. Okay? Most people you see retired as 1-star are the most brilliant crop of the system. They're the one that cannot bootlick. They're the one that cannot go around clapping hands to senators to help them to get promotion. So the question you're asking, there's an anomaly in Nigeria where we pretend to be a democracy. Look at our democracy index. It's among the poorest in the world. We want to compare ourselves with Denmark, that is #1 in the world. So if you say, okay, we should follow the democratic practices, that the commander-in-chief should allow the Senate or the House of Assembly to actually, give support to who he has decided to work with, I think it's wrong. Everything we are trying to copy from there, when we see good things in US, we don't copy that one. Always leave that, because this is a third world country, and President Muhammad Buhari will choose those people that he is comfortable with. Otherwise, they will kick him out of that office. So if somebody from the Senate cannot tell him who he wants to work with, we are just pretending to be a democracy. We are not.
Well, as a follow-up, I'm happy that we are getting continuously to be on the same page on this discourse. Take a cue from what he said. Globally, there are people behind the scene who controls the affairs globally, and even the same thing can be replicated in Nigeria. If you juxtapose that with what I said earlier, that it appears that there are some people who are landlords in Nigeria who controls the situation, then you realize that there are some powerful elements who decides what goes on or what happens or what does not happen in Nigeria. That's number one. Concerning the issue of the National Assembly saying the president has to pass through them the issue of the service chief, the president has the prerogative of mercy of who serves him. And like he said, loyalty is primemost. If at the end of the day there is a lacuna, the National Assembly can approach the court. That's why you have the three arms of government. The judiciary is there. Let the National Assembly approach the judiciary. Of course, whatever the judiciary is going to do will have to pass through the interpretation of the law of the land. If there is any challenge there, it will be explained by the judiciary whether it must necessarily pass through the National Assembly or it can go on as it has been. But not one thing he also said, which came out somehow indirectly from retired General Buratai, not more than 3 months ago, I suppose. He warned the officers of the Nigerian Army to beware of the civilians, that there are intelligence, there are insinuations that some civilians are approaching them to undermine the government. I don't want to use another word. And listen to what he said. He is very versed in the intelligence community. That if the president puts somebody who is not loyal, he can easily be booted out of office. Can we afford to have that? Go back to square one. The best of the military is not comparable to the democratic ideals we are enjoying as of now. Ordinarily, if we are in the military dictatorship, some of us will not even be seen on the roads again. I know that for sure, because we've seen so many developments in the course of our development. So in essence, Buratai was saying indirectly, perhaps for long, that their loyalty, I'm interpreting that, might possibly be responsible for their being on that seat for a long while, despite all the agitations until the new set of people. And the new set of people also have to be people that are ultimately loyal to the president, or else he will have challenges. So in essence, you don't want a situation of coup d'etat again. But what Nigerians are saying is that despite all these challenges of policy, tactical and operational, even though there are people behind the scene, we want to plead with those powerful elements to please give us a breathing space so that this thing will not go beyond an unnecessary limit to the extent that we'll now be having a kind of repercussion down south. If it could be contained, Others may easily be, taken care of, because the issue of kidnapping is now becoming a recurrent decimal down south here, and that's a peculiar security challenge to almost all segments of the country.
Okay, Dr. Olawumi, talking about powerful elements, where will you place international community? Because I could recall that during Jonathan administration, he tried to get weapons from United States. For instance, it wasn't released. He even tried to get weapons from Israel, but United States blocked. Under Obama administration blocked that. Now let's talk about Trump. I'm also in the know that Buhari administration tried to get certain weapons. They took no jets that took years. So in all this, where we also place international community in terms of support, are we getting enough?
Yeah, I was laughing when you, I didn't want us to go there. Why is that when you look at the international system, or what we consider when we lecture, we consider as international security system, every state is for himself. The interest of every state is paramount to itself. Since the Westphalia system, you see that the concept of nation state has actually become a problem with the issue of globalization. Now, when you look at the question you're asking, why should the United States give us weapons when they have interest in the Sahel region, where they have a lot of uranium there? Why should the British support us to be a single and powerful entity when they have interest in Chad and Niger, where there are tremendous amount of resources to be taken? Why should they support us? We have the Defense Industrial Corporation in Kaduna since 1963. I was an observer to an exercise in 2014 in Brazil. I was in Rio de Janeiro to watch an exercise between Argentina, Uruguay, South Africa, and Brazil. Nigeria was the observer in that exercise. And I spent 10 days, going through the South Atlantic with them, the submarines and so on, and I saw how serious the Brazilians were. They took me to the Maritime Control Center, and they asked me to mention any part in Warri or anywhere in Nigeria where I want to see. And right in Rio de Janeiro, I could see the Niger Delta, and they wanted me to mention any creek. And I said, okay, I want to see the escravos. And I was able to see escravos. I was able to see all the ships that are moving in escravos from Rio de Janeiro. They have interest in Gulf of Guinea. They have interest in Equatorial Guinea. What is our interest? Why do you always go cap in hand for people to give you arms? You spend your hard-earned money and go and throw it into US, you pay money, you give us weapons. I was the defense advisor to Nigeria, and I was running 9 countries in Europe. It is my duty to sign the end user certificate for Nigeria. And I see how many billions of euros we are spending to acquire arms. What does it take to set up industry in Kaduna, in Abeokuta, and manufacture your weapons?
But won't that take some time? Now we're talking about
There are
sophisticated
turnkey
weapons.
projects. This is my area of specialization. If you want to start assembling BMW today, it won't take 6 months. If you bring in the equipment, bring in the experts, ask them to run it. In 6 months, they will start producing BMW. If you want to produce an armor tank, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You buy the franchise. Tell China to come. They bring all the products and they assemble it here. And after some time, they will start manufacturing it in Aba, in Owerri, in Onitsha, and start putting them together. This will not take 4 years of a term of a president to achieve. What is wrong with us? So, if you think the United States is going to empower you, they're not going to do that. Let me also tell you the disadvantage of this policy in Nigeria. Go to the Air Force. You will see fighter jets from China. Not because I was in Tactical Air Command. I go there because we have to check what the Air Force they're doing. You will see aircraft from China. You see from Pakistan. You see Jaguar jets that are parked in Shagari time. 18 Jaguar jets they are lying down there. We can't maintain them. They are dead. We buy things we cannot maintain. If you buy aircraft from China, from Pakistan, from Britain, from United States, do you know what that means to your logistics system? How do you get the parts? How do you train the men? Why are you going about buying things as if you go to market and you are shopping for pepper and tomatoes? Face a particular area. If you want to deal with US, no problem. I don't care who you deal with, but try to focus on some areas where you can have a comparative advantage in the next 5 to 10 years. So we should not blame the United States. They have interests. And let me tell you, their interest is paramount and superior to whatever national interest Nigeria has. It's we that we put our hearts together and ensure. There's no time I could have told you my experience in Israel. I was the deputy defense attaché to Israel. And I see when people like Yayale Ahmed, former minister, Kwankwa, so I work with all of them. And we go around shopping. We shop for Super Dora, Shaldag, you just shop, you go for shopping. If you go to Ficateri in Italy, you see our horse wizards there. You see our artillery pieces there. You see our armor tanks there. And we pay hell of thousands and millions of euros just to keep them there. If you go to France, if you go to Bordeaux right now, you will hear about what Navy calls mono projects. You see our missile systems there. We pay thousands of euros to keep them there. Why are we doing this? Is there any problem?
Okay.
So I think we should not blame the United States for not giving us. We should blame ourselves for being stupid.
And these are the ways we erode our foreign reserves, QED. I was on a radio discussion recently when the issue of NDIC Kaduna, the arms producing company, came up. You know, sometimes Nigerians, some of us can be very emotional. Some people are saying, don't let them produce, so don't let them do this, because if some people will take it and give it to Boko Haram, some people will do this. I said, what is it that you are saying? We have the capacity to produce these things locally. Why don't we develop it, generate employment, check our foreign reserves from being eroded unnecessarily, have our own capacity to do things that are localized and can be used the way that it will favor us.
Okay, well, Mr. Landmarshal, our time really fast spent on this segment. But quickly, just what are your expectations from the new service chiefs?
Apart from the issue of policy saying, I wish the service chiefs would push the issue of arms and ammunition seriously, because what we are hearing that the enemies are having possibly superior power than what we're having. I'm not sure of that. I'm not an operational man. I wouldn't know. But they've got to push for it, because some of these things have short-term, long-term, medium-term range before they could be purchased. Then the issue of training and retraining of our personnel on the field. Then the issue of welfare is very crucial of the boys on the field. Welfare. You don't want to send somebody to go and fight for you despite his patriotic act, and you are not taking care of his welfare. You'd look at the insurance aspect. The salary must come on time. Don't just use them and drop them like Mr. Nobody. So they have to consider all these factors. Welfare, training and retraining, arms and ammunition, and all the rest. And whoever is in charge of our policy should know that history will be there to judge all of us. Be you a military man, a politician, or the ordinary civilians. And for those who are within the range, be it Maiduguri or elsewhere, please try and cooperate with the operatives on the ground. Give information. Because without information, they may not be able to do much. They know those who are among them that are creating problems for us. Even if they don't know those who are outside their domain. They should pass information on movement routinely. Whether true or false, it is left for the operative to determine this is how this one goes, this is how this one goes. For God's sake, let us cooperate with one another to get the best result at the end of the day.
Okay, Dr. Kunle Olawumi, as your parting shots, but I wanted to be informed of your projections. Basically, we have new service chiefs. What do you project?
I project that we're going to make progress. If I isolate this policy strategic level, these boys that are there now, they know what to do. But if they are listening to me, I will advise them two things. This effort is not an army effort. It's not really a naval effort. There are two efforts. The intelligence community, we have the ICC, Intelligence Community Committee. We have the JIB, the Joint Intelligence Board. We have the National Intelligence Agency, Defense Intelligence Agency, where I worked for almost 30 years. We have the Department of State Services. They should come together with the IGP and formulate a policy. This effort is an intelligence-led operation, and we must bring the Chief of Air Staff and empower him to do what? To take charge of the airspace. If you buy 2 blimps, BLIMPS, 2 blimps, each can cover 350 nautical miles radius with heavy payload, real-time information, situational awareness. If you buy 2, it means if you arrange them properly, they can cover 700 kilometers from 30,000 feet. You will see the movement of Boko Haram from where they're coming from. Allow them to operate for 2 weeks. Don't attack them. Let them move from their position, attack and go back. Of course, you now know where they are, because it's giving you real-time information, and you are mapping it. After 2 weeks, you go with your 500 pounds bomb and level the place. This effort does not require army, infantry. Their job is to just go there and mop up. Mopping up means after the Air Force have done their job, the infantry, the artillery, they will move in and does what? Hold the ground to ensure that they don't come back. Exactly. The final thing I'm going to say is, you can't do this alone. Northern Cameroon, Chad, and Niger, we must put them in the basket so that when you drive them out of here, they don't go and hide and come back at a later date. But we can take care of Boko Haram efforts in 6 months. I repeat, in 6 months, they can end. Thank you.
Okay, many thanks, Dr. Kunle Olawumi, retired commando and head of Department of Criminology and Security Studies at Christland University. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. And also, public analyst, Mr. Ola Animashan, many thanks.
Nice to be here.
Yes, I'll be back shortly for the second part of the discussion segment. Stay with us.